The America's Got Talent stage gleamed under its familiar golden lights as the evening's auditions neared their emotional crescendo. It was a warm October evening in 2024, and Simon Cowell sat in his customary position at the judges' table, black t-shirt pristine despite the marathon day of evaluations. The studio buzzed with anticipation, filled with families who had traveled from across the country to witness the magic of AGT. What none of them knew was that they were about to experience one of the most heartbreaking moments in television history. After decades in the entertainment industry and countless seasons of talent shows, Simon had developed what he believed was an unshakable professional composure. He had witnessed every conceivable combination of talent, tragedy, and human emotion that could walk onto his stage. He had comforted crying contestants, celebrated incredible victories, and delivered difficult truths to those who needed to hear them. In his mind, he had seen it all. He was about to discover that some moments could still reach into his chest and completely shatter the walls he had built around his heart. 3-year-old Lily Thompson stood in the wings, clutching a small stuffed elephant in one hand and a crumpled piece of paper in the other. She was an incredibly small child, even for 3 years old, with curly auburn hair that had been carefully styled with tiny butterfly clips and bright green eyes that sparkled with the kind of pure innocence that only exists in very young children. She wore a pale pink dress with sparkly tulle that made her look like a tiny princess, and little white shoes that had been polished to perfection. What made Lily's presence on AGT so remarkable wasn't just her age, but the circumstances that had brought her there. 6 months earlier, her father, Staff Sergeant Michael Thompson, had been killed in a training accident at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. However, Lily's mother, Sarah, and her grandmother had made the heartbreaking decision not to tell the 3-year-old about her father's death, instead maintaining the story that Daddy had gone on a very long work trip and would come home eventually. Sarah Thompson sat in the audience, her hands clasped tightly in her lap, tears already threatening to spill before Lily had even taken the stage. Beside her sat Michael's mother, Patricia Thompson, who had been the driving force behind Lily's AGT audition. Patricia believed that Lily's singing might provide some healing for their devastated family, though she had no idea that the evening would force them to confront the truth they had been avoiding for months. The decision to keep Michael's death from Lily had seemed merciful at first. How do you explain to a 3-year-old that Daddy isn't coming home? How do you make a toddler understand the finality of death? So they had chosen the path that seemed kindest. They told her Daddy was working far away, that he missed her very much, and that he would come home when his work was finished. Ladies and gentlemen, Terry Crews announced with his characteristic enthusiasm, our youngest contestant tonight is 3-year-old Lily Thompson from Nashville, Tennessee. The audience erupted in delighted applause as Lily walked onto the stage, her tiny steps careful and deliberate. Simon immediately noticed how she moved, with the cautious precision of a child who had learned to navigate adult emotions in situations beyond her comprehension. "Well, hello there, princess," Simon said, his voice carrying the warm tone he reserved for very young performers. "Don't you look absolutely beautiful tonight? What's your name?" Lily approached the microphone, which had been lowered as far as it could go but still towered over her small frame. "My name is Lily Thompson, and I'm 3 years old," she announced with the careful enunciation of a child who had been practicing this introduction. Heidi Klum immediately melted at Lily's tiny voice. "Oh my goodness, you are just adorable. And what are you going to do for us tonight, sweetheart?" Lily held up her stuffed elephant proudly. "I'm going to sing a song for my daddy. This is Mr. Peanuts. Daddy gave him to me before he went to work, and he said Mr. Peanuts would keep me safe until he comes home." The innocent mention of her father immediately caught the attention of all 4 judges, though they assumed it was simply a child missing a parent who was deployed or traveling for work. "That's very sweet," Sofia Vergara said gently. "Is your daddy here tonight to watch you sing?" Lily shook her head, her expression becoming slightly sad. "No, Daddy is at work. He's been working for a really, really long time. Mommy says he has a very important job and he can't come home yet. But I'm going to sing really loud so maybe he can hear me wherever he is." Simon felt a small tug at his heart, assuming he was listening to a military child dealing with deployment. "What kind of work does your daddy do, Lily?" "He's a soldier," Lily announced proudly, her face lighting up. "He wears a special uniform and helps keep people safe. Mommy says he's a hero, but I just want him to come home so we can play Princess and Dragons again." The audience made sympathetic sounds, many people clearly moved by this tiny child's simple expression of missing her father. Simon nodded approvingly, thinking he understood the situation completely. "That's wonderful, Lily. Your daddy sounds like a very brave man," Simon said. "What song are you going to sing for him?" Lily carefully unfolded the piece of paper she had been carrying. "I'm going to sing a song I made up myself. Grandma Patricia helped me write down the words, but all the feelings are mine. It's called When Daddy Comes Home." She looked directly at Simon with those bright green eyes that held such innocent hope. "I sing it every night before bed because Mommy says maybe Daddy can hear me even when he's far away at work." Simon felt his chest tighten slightly, moved by the child's dedication to maintaining connection with her deployed father. "That sounds beautiful, Lily. Whenever you're ready." Lily positioned herself as close to the microphone as possible and began to sing in a tiny, clear voice that was remarkable for someone so young. Her words were simple but delivered with the pure emotional honesty that only small children possess. "Daddy went to work one day, said he'd be back real soon. But the days keep getting longer, and I still watch for you. Mommy says you're working hard, keeping people safe and free, but I miss you every single day, and I wish you were with me." The audience fell completely silent, absorbed in this 3-year-old's heartfelt performance. Simon found himself leaning forward, struck by the mature emotion in such a young voice. "When Daddy comes home, we'll play in the yard. When Daddy comes home, you can read me stories. When Daddy comes home, I'll show you how tall I've grown. When Daddy comes home, when Daddy comes home." As Lily continued singing, Simon began to notice something in her performance that went beyond typical childhood missing parent sentiment. There was a quality of desperate hope, of intense longing, that seemed disproportionate to a standard deployment situation. "I save my best drawings just for you, and all my favorite toys. I practice being extra good, like you taught me to be. Mommy cries sometimes when she thinks I can't see, but I know you'll come home soon, 'cause you promised you'd come back to me." The last verse hit Simon with unexpected force. The mention of the mother crying, combined with the child's determined faith in a promise, was beginning to paint a picture that made him increasingly uncomfortable. "When Daddy comes home, we'll dance in the kitchen. When Daddy comes home, you'll chase away my bad dreams. When Daddy comes home, I'll tell you I love you. When Daddy comes home, when Daddy comes home." Lily finished her song and looked directly at Simon with expectant eyes. "Did you like my song, Mr. Simon? Do you think Daddy could hear it?" Simon stared at this tiny child, so full of hope and certainty that her father would return, and felt a growing unease. Something about the mother's tears, the child's desperate hopefulness, and the way the family was positioned in the audience was triggering alarm bells in his mind. "That was beautiful, Lily," Simon said carefully. "How long has your daddy been at work?" "A really, really long time," Lily replied, holding up her small hands to try to show the duration. "This many months," she said, displaying what appeared to be 6 fingers. "But Mommy says sometimes work takes longer than we think it will." Simon's expression was beginning to change as the timeline became clearer. 6 months was a long time for any work assignment, even a military deployment, without leave or contact. "Lily," Howie Mandel asked gently, "do you get to talk to your daddy while he's at work? On the phone or video calls?" Lily's face fell slightly. "No, Mommy says Daddy's work is in a place where phones don't work very good. But I talk to his picture every night, and I tell him about my day. Mommy says he can still hear me in his heart." The judges exchanged glances, beginning to suspect that there might be more to this story than a simple deployment. The lack of communication, the mother's emotional state, and the child's intense hopefulness were creating a picture that was becoming increasingly concerning. "Lily," Simon said, his voice gentler than usual, "what did Daddy say when he left for work? Do you remember?" Lily's face brightened at the memory. "He gave me Mr. Peanuts and said he had to go do very important work helping other soldiers. He said he would come home as soon as he could, and that I should be a good girl for Mommy and Grandma Patricia. He said he would love me forever and ever, even when he couldn't be with me." Simon felt his heart begin to race as he processed Lily's words. The phrasing was beginning to sound less like deployment instructions and more like final goodbyes. The promise to love her forever, even when he couldn't be with her, had an ominous finality that was making Simon increasingly anxious. "Lily," Simon asked carefully, "when Daddy comes home from work, what's the first thing you want to do with him?" Lily's entire face lit up with joy and excitement. "I want to show him how I can write my whole name now. And I want him to see that I can ride my bike without training wheels. And I want him to meet my new friend Emma from preschool. And I want to show him all the pictures I drew for him." She paused, her expression becoming more thoughtful. "And I want to ask him why he had to work for so long, because I missed him so much. But Mommy says I shouldn't be sad about Daddy working, because he's helping keep everyone safe." Simon looked out at the audience and spotted a woman who was clearly Lily's mother, crying silently in her seat. Next to her sat an older woman who appeared to be a grandmother, also emotional but trying to maintain composure. The sight of these women's grief while listening to Lily's innocent plans for her father's return was beginning to create a horrible understanding in Simon's mind. "Lily," Simon said, his voice becoming strained, "has anyone told you when Daddy might come home from work?" "Mommy says she doesn't know exactly when, but that I should keep being patient and good," Lily replied. "Sometimes I ask if it will be tomorrow, and she says maybe someday. I've been waiting a really long time, but Mommy says good things come to people who wait." The way Lily spoke about waiting indefinitely, combined with her mother's visible distress, was creating a picture that Simon desperately hoped he was misunderstanding. "Lily, sweetheart," Heidi said gently, "what makes you most excited about Daddy coming home?" Lily's answer was delivered with the pure joy and anticipation that only children can express. "Everything. I want to hug him for like 100 hours, and I want him to tuck me in at night again, and I want him to sing our special song, and I want to tell him that I've been really, really good while he was at work, and that I helped Mommy not be sad." She paused, then added with the earnest sincerity of a 3-year-old, "And I want to tell him that I understand that work is important, but I hope he doesn't have to go away for such a long time ever again." Simon felt something breaking inside his chest. This child's detailed plans for reuniting with her father, her patient acceptance of his prolonged absence, and her innocent hope that he would choose to stay home in the future, were creating an unbearable emotional weight. "Lily," Simon said, his voice beginning to shake, "you said your daddy promised to come home. Do you believe he will keep that promise?" "Of course," Lily replied immediately, her faith absolute. "Daddy never breaks his promises. He promised he would come home, and he promised he would love me forever, so I know he will. I just have to keep waiting and being good." The certainty in Lily's voice, her unshakable faith in promises that Simon was beginning to suspect could never be kept, was devastating. He looked again at the woman in the audience, who was now crying openly, and the horrible truth began to crystallize in his mind. "Lily," Simon said, struggling to keep his voice steady, "what do you think Daddy is doing at work right now?" "Probably helping other soldiers and keeping people safe," Lily said thoughtfully. "Mommy says his job is very important, and that lots of people need his help. I just wish they didn't need him for so long. 'Cause I need him too." Simon stood up from his chair abruptly, something he had never done in the middle of a contestant's interview. The other judges looked at him in confusion as he began walking toward the edge of the stage. "Simon," Heidi called out, concern evident in her voice. But Simon couldn't respond. The realization that this 3-year-old child had been waiting for 6 months for a father who was never coming home, that she was singing to someone who couldn't hear her, that she was making plans for reunions that would never happen, was crushing him with an emotional weight he had never experienced. "Mr. Simon," Lily's small voice called out, "are you okay? Did I sing something wrong?" Simon paused at the edge of the stage, his back to the cameras, his shoulders shaking visibly. The question from this innocent child, wondering if she had done something wrong while unknowingly describing the most heartbreaking situation he had ever encountered, was the final blow to his composure. "I need a moment," Simon managed to say, his voice breaking completely. "I'm sorry, Lily. I just need a moment." Simon walked off the stage, leaving Lily standing alone at the microphone, still holding Mr. Peanuts, confusion beginning to cloud her hopeful expression. "Is Mr. Simon sad about Daddy working too?" Lily asked the remaining judges. "Sometimes grown-ups get sad when they think about Daddy being away, but I tell them it's okay because he's coming home." Backstage, Simon was inconsolable. The production team gathered around him as he struggled to process what he had just witnessed. "She doesn't know," Simon said through his tears. "That little girl doesn't know her father is dead. She's been waiting for 6 months for someone who's never coming home, and no one has told her the truth." The show's child psychologist, Dr. Jennifer Morrison, who was kept on staff for situations involving young performers, immediately understood the gravity of the situation. "This is complex grief," Dr. Morrison explained to the stunned production team. "At 3 years old, Lily doesn't have the cognitive development to understand death. Her family has probably been trying to protect her from pain, but she's trapped in a state of indefinite waiting that could be psychologically damaging." Meanwhile, on stage, Lily was beginning to worry about Simon's reaction. "Did I make Mr. Simon sad?" she asked Terry Crews, who had come over to comfort her. "I didn't mean to make anyone sad. I just wanted to sing for Daddy." "You didn't do anything wrong, sweetheart," Terry assured her. "Sometimes songs about people we love make grown-ups have big feelings." "Oh," Lily said, nodding wisely. "Like how Mommy cries sometimes when she looks at Daddy's pictures. But I tell her not to be sad, because Daddy is just working, and he'll come home soon." When Simon returned to the stage 30 minutes later, his eyes were red and his voice was still shaky. The audience had been told they were experiencing something unprecedented, and everyone remained in their seats, understanding they were witnessing something far more significant than entertainment. Lily was still standing patiently at the microphone, having spent the time showing Mr. Peanuts to audience members and talking about her father's promised return. "Lily," Simon said as he approached, his voice gentle but carrying obvious emotional strain, "I'm sorry I got upset. Your song was beautiful, and you sang it perfectly." "Thank you, Mr. Simon," Lily replied politely. "Are you feeling better now? Sometimes when I'm sad about Daddy being at work, Mommy gives me hugs and that helps." Simon knelt down to Lily's eye level, and when he spoke, his words were chosen very carefully. "Lily, sweetheart, I think it's time for you to have a very important conversation with your mommy about Daddy. About when he's coming home," Lily asked hopefully. "About Daddy," Simon said simply. "There are some things about Daddy's work that you need to understand better, and Mommy needs to help you with that." "Okay," Lily agreed readily. "Will you be there too? You seem like you understand about missing people." Simon's eyes filled with tears again at her innocent request. "If Mommy says it's okay, then yes, I'll be there." The conversation that followed was the most difficult television moment Simon had ever been part of. Lily's mother Sarah was brought onto the stage, along with her grandmother Patricia and Dr. Morrison. What happened next was raw, necessary, and heartbreaking, as 3-year-old Lily slowly began to understand that Daddy wasn't coming home from work. "So Daddy can't come home ever?" Lily asked when the truth was finally gently explained to her. "No, baby," her mother said through tears. "Daddy died, which means his body stopped working, and he can't come home. But he loves you so much, and that love stays with you forever." Lily processed this information with the remarkable resilience that small children often display in crisis situations. "So I don't have to wait anymore?" "No, sweetheart, you don't have to wait anymore. But I can still sing to him." "Of course you can. Daddy can hear you in heaven. And he's still proud of me for being good." "He's so proud of you," Simon said, his voice breaking. "So incredibly proud." The segment that aired became one of the most emotionally impactful moments in AGT history. More importantly, it sparked national conversations about how to talk to very young children about death and the importance of age-appropriate grief counseling. Dr. Morrison worked with Lily and her family for months following the show, helping Lily process her grief and understand death in ways that were appropriate for her developmental stage. Simon personally funded Lily's counseling and established a foundation to provide grief support services for military families with young children. 6 months later, Lily returned to AGT for a follow-up visit. She was noticeably more mature and had a different quality to her demeanor, still joyful and innocent, but with a deeper understanding of life and loss. "How are you doing, Lily?" Simon asked during her return appearance. "I'm okay," Lily replied, her vocabulary and understanding clearly more advanced. "I still miss Daddy every day, but now I know he's in heaven watching me, and I don't have to wait for him to come home anymore." She held up a new drawing. "I made this picture of Daddy with angel wings. Dr. Jennifer says that's one way to think about people who die. They become our guardian angels." Simon was moved by Lily's growth and resilience. "What would you say to other kids who might lose someone they love?" "I would tell them that it's okay to be sad, and it's okay to be confused, but that grown-ups should tell you the truth even when it's scary," Lily replied with the wisdom that comes from surviving profound loss. "And I would tell them that love doesn't go away when someone dies. It just changes into a different kind of love that you can keep in your heart forever." The interview concluded with Lily performing a new song she had written called "Daddy's in Heaven," a gentle, hopeful song about continuing to love someone who has died. Simon often reflected on how Lily's appearance had changed his understanding of childhood grief and the importance of honest communication with children about death. "Lily taught me that children are much stronger than we imagine," he would say in later interviews. "But they need truth, support, and age-appropriate explanations to process their experiences. Protecting them from reality doesn't actually protect them, it just delays the inevitable and can cause additional trauma." The story became a landmark case in childhood bereavement counseling, demonstrating the critical importance of early, honest intervention when very young children experience loss. Lily's foundation went on to help thousands of military families navigate the difficult process of explaining death to small children. Most importantly, Lily continued to thrive. Her love of singing developed into a genuine talent, and she used music as both a creative outlet and a way to process her ongoing grief. She became a young spokesperson for military families and childhood bereavement, sharing her story to help other families understand the importance of truth-telling and professional support. Years later, Lily would look back on that night at AGT as the moment when her life changed from waiting to healing. "I thought I was just singing for my daddy," she would say. "But I learned that sometimes when you sing your truth, it helps other people learn how to tell the truth too." Simon kept one of Lily's original drawings in his office, the one showing her waiting by the door for Daddy to come home from work. Beside it hung her newer drawing of Daddy with angel wings. The contrast between the two images served as a daily reminder that healing comes not from avoiding difficult truths, but from facing them with support, love, and the understanding that some kinds of love transcend physical presence. The experience taught Simon that sometimes the most important moments in television aren't about entertainment or even talent. They're about truth, healing, and the courage to have difficult conversations when children need them most.